We're hoping that availability of flights for refrigerated cargo also opens up the possibility for other products, especially agri products. And Goa has a lot of fertile land, a lot of which is not used productively right now. But I think there is a great opportunity here for farmers to develop suitable crops which can be exported to markets such as in the Middle East and Europe at much good profit levels to reinvigorate the agricultural sector here in Goa. So we'll be talking about that, and we have the director of the Department of Agriculture in Goa involved in that session, as well as other industry stakeholders. So I think that promises to be an interesting session. Then the last session, we're going to talk about leveraging Goa as a multimodal logistics hub, and with a primary focus on the Goa port. As you know, we have a major port in Goa, but it's not really serving the needs of the trade in Goa today because there is no modern functioning container terminal. That's been an issue which I think everybody's aware of in recent conferences, and so we want to focus on that. We have a new port chairman who's recently taken over charge at Goa Port Authority, and I think he's keen to make his mark and do something, and we are hoping that the trade can come forward and say that they would be willing to support the Goa port if certain initiatives were taken to provide the relevant facilities. Especially the issue is, one of the main issues is that there is no functioning crane at the moment which can lift containers or other cargoes. So that's one of the issues we want to take up in that session. And if we have Mopa Airport and we have a functioning port, as well as the 2 rail lines and the improved road net that we have, and then we're talking about setting up the multimodal logistics parks in Goa, then we're making the base for Goa to really become a logistics hub. That's something we've been talking about over the years in all of the conferences, and I think that's been talked about. I think in the past you've heard Chief Suresh Prabhu mention that Goa can be a logistics hub. We've heard our industries minister say the same thing. But all of these elements that I just talked about need to be put in place for it to happen. So we're optimistic this time that things really are moving in the right direction and people are understanding what needs to be done. So we hope at this conference that we can push all this forward and get all the stakeholders working in the right direction and get aligned in the right direction to make Goa this logistics hub that we've been talking about. So thank you, that's what I have to say.
Professor Raj Amolkar, who is from Goa Institute of Management. They are our knowledge partners. Can I ask you to brief the press?
Thank you, Chairman Mr. Agarwal. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So it's indeed an honor for Goa Institute of Management to partner with CII Goa for this 9th edition of the Goa Logistics Conference. As Mr. Kaskar, Chairman of the Logistics Panel, has already briefed regarding the sessions which will be sort of planned during this conference. And one key session here is about the PM Gati Shakti plan and the Goa Logistics policy. But everything else hovers around this policy. The policy is an excellent beginning, and in fact it's credited with giving direction to both the government and investors. But yet need is felt to operationalize it, to facilitate the implementation of this policy. And in light of this, one of our senior professors, Mr. Sebastian Morris, who incidentally will also be chairing the session on the Goa Logistics policy at the conference. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today, and so in fact I'm representing Goa and the GIM on his behalf. So he has comprehensively analyzed this particular policy, and I just share with you today the pointers which we are looking at for the conference. So first is the need is felt to lay out a time framework for the proposals as per the policy. The need is felt to lay out a time framework for the proposals under the plan, and also to understand the financial implications of planning the sector, because we expect several stakeholders to participate in the conference, and by way of inputs, etc., we would expect that to happen. Maybe the modes of financing. Excellent initiatives are there in the policy in terms of the single window clearance for the investors. So the need is felt to better understand what this single window policy is all about. And also Morris, for instance, has made some suggestions in terms of having a high-powered committee if possible. So maybe we can have some deliberations on that. Another very key aspect is what should Goa actually focus on? Because we have heavy logistics on one hand, where we have iron ore, coal, and bulk materials which are being handled. And at the same time, we also have light logistics for the small materials like pharmaceuticals, the agricultural products which Mr. Kasper spoke about. So what actually should be the focus for Goa going forward? That's something which can be deliberated. Then the connectivity debilities which are there in the state in terms of the rail transport, in terms of the inland waterways, what actually needs to be done to facilitate the logistics. This is another very important aspect which has been covered in the students. So that's what all I'd like to say. I'm really happy to take questions.
That all elements need to be put in place now for Goa to become a logistic hub. Which are the elements which are in place and which are not?
Well, we've already said we have a functioning airport now. So now we need to get a functioning seaport, basically primarily being able to handle container shipments through the port. I mean, right now, the port is not handling containers at all, and those, they're moving by road to Nava Sheva. Of course, we do have, I didn't mention, we do have a functioning ICD now since last year. The ICD is now able to handle international cargo. So containers can move by rail from Bali ICD. But to complete the picture, definitely the port needs to be able to handle containers. And there's a large part of the trade here which is really suffering because there is no container port handling containers in Goa, and they have to move expensively by road to Nava Sheva. And then we talked about land allocation for logistics. There's no specific area dedicated for logistics at the moment in Goa. And if we're to attract serious investors in logistics, that's putting up effectively modern warehousing, multimodal logistics parks, you can call it. But really that amounts to modern warehousing. Then we need to have some land that they can come in and invest in. And that's obviously an important issue that the government needs to be aware of. And so we're hoping that some land can be dedicated for that under this GIDC policy, which was already referred to. Rail is there, ICD is functioning. The road network is also there. Of course, it's still being improved. But as part of a multimodal logistics park, you also need to have truck terminals. I mean, as people are aware, trucks are parked willy-nilly here and there all over the roads in Goa because there is no proper dedicated truck parking and facilities for the truck drivers. And that's increasingly become an issue because, although driving a truck has some remuneration, you can imagine the life of a truck driver is actually very unpleasant today. And with no facilities and no proper washrooms, random places to stop and eat. So these are the kind of things that need to be modernized and improved going forward. So I think the conferences, we've touched upon a lot of these areas in the past and we're continuing to focus on them. But basically all of the areas need to be improved that we've discussed, and then Goa can actually indeed be a logistics hub.
You spoke about